Welcome to United in Dance, the Dance Nova Scotia podcast. We would like to acknowledge that this podcast was recorded in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, which is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik people first signed with the British Crown in 1725.
In each episode, Dance Nova Scotia brings you interesting or little-known facts about dance. This time, we answer the question, which ballroom dance was thought to stand for freedom of expression and movement? The answer is the waltz. This ballroom dance originated in the 18th century and was considered scandalous at the time due to its close hold and flowing movements. The dance allowed partners to move freely across the dance floor, breaking away from the rigid structure of traditional dances. The waltz's graceful and sweeping movements gave dancers the opportunity to express themselves and showcase their individuality, making it a symbol of freedom in ballroom dancing.
Have a dance fact you'd like to share with us? Visit us online at www.dancens.ca and tell us your dance fact. Dance Nova Scotia recognizes the support of the province of Nova Scotia. We are pleased to work in partnership with the Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism and Heritage to develop and promote our cultural resources for all Nova Scotians. Hello and welcome to United in Dance, the Dance Nova Scotia podcast. Each episode will be bringing you discussion on topics in dance and conversations with special guests around the province and across Canada. On today's episode, we're joined by former Royal Winnipeg Ballet dancer Liam Caines. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of United in Dance, the Dance Nova Scotia podcast. I am joined this episode by Liam Caines, former dancer with the Winnipeg Royal Ballet, but now you're coming back to the East where you're originally from. Is that correct, Liam?
That's correct. Yeah, no, back home now. Very happy to be here.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So as I mentioned, you are a former dancer. You were a touring dancer with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, but your roots are from the East Coast. You started dancing in the East and just outside of St. John, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small place called the Kingston Peninsula, which is, depending on how you hit the ferry, it's anywhere from like a 30 to 40-minute drive into St. John. I guess I did my first dance classes, going back, I think I was like 3 or 4, with a school at the time called Eileen McGrath School of Dance. I wanted to pursue ballet because my older sister was in ballet, and that was enough of a reason for me back then. But at the time, I wasn't old enough to get into ballet school. But then I spent a couple years with Rothley Ballet School in Rothesay, New Brunswick, and then moved to Port City Dance Academy when it opened up a couple years later. And I was training there in St. John under Andrea Scott for probably about 8 or 9 years before heading out to Winnipeg.
How old were you when you went to Winnipeg?
16.
Wow. That must have been both exciting and scary for you.
Oh, very. It was interesting because dance for me for the longest time was just, it was a recreation. I knew of companies like the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, the National Ballet of Canada. So I guess I was aware that there were those who, were able to, make a living and pursue it. But sort of my direct exposure for the longest time was just, seeing the older students, dance until the end of high school and then, go off and pursue, we'll say a real job, if you will. And it wasn't until I was probably late middle school, a classmate of mine auditioned to get into the school and made it to the second tier, which is held in Winnipeg. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, supply and demand, it probably would work in my favor. Like, I wonder if I auditioned, maybe I wonder what happened. And then all of a sudden I thought, maybe there is more to dance than just recreationally. It's something I obviously really enjoy doing. Yeah, maybe I should look into this. And then, so I finished high school in Winnipeg, grades 11 and 12 there. I spent 4 years in the Royal Winnipeg Ballet School and before starting my career with the company.
And how long you were you touring for, like, over 10 years, weren't you?
Yeah, so I danced with the RWB for 16 seasons. Generally, like in a season, we do four, sometimes five productions in Winnipeg. Generally, like a production, late October. Then there's always Nutcracker in December, and then another one in like early spring, and the season would finish in May. And then in between those productions, we may be on the road for, I think some seasons we were on the road for up to like 10 or 11 weeks. Not necessarily all at one time, but going out. And I think the longest tour I was on was, I think I had a couple times we were on the road for about 5 or 6 weeks straight, which at a certain point, eating out at restaurants and staying in hotels loses its novelty, and you really want to just get home and sleep in your own bed.
I can imagine. When you were touring, was it just Canada or did you go internationally?
The majority would have been in Canada and the US, but I had the fun experience of a number of sort of international tours. Mexico. We went to Israel. I think that was like my third or fourth year in the company. That was really fun. China, various locations in Europe, mostly Germany, but we went to the Netherlands, Italy. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for my international like trips with the RWB. But yeah, so it was nice. It was work. It wasn't a vacation, but you would always have, at least once a week, you'd have at least a day off, if not, mornings or evenings. So then all of a sudden you're finding yourself in Rome and going, gee, I wonder what I should do with my, 5 free hours. And so it was a bit of a paid advertisement of seeing the world, and me, I'm taking mental notes going, all right, sometime I want to come back here and revisit this place.
I mean, at a young age too, what a great way to be able to experience so much of the world and do it through what you love doing. We all would love to have that experience. But I think sometimes when you're from the East Coast in Canada, we think that is something that's maybe out of reach for us or can't possibly happen because of resources or just not being in a larger metropolitan space. And I think that, it's very fortunate that you got a chance to see someone, be able to kind of start to succeed like that kind of clicked with you to say that could be something for me too.
Oh, for sure. I remember when I was first accepted to go to the school, chatting with my dad. We were driving home, and he was saying to me, he's like, Liam, like, look, this is one of those careers that if you have the goods, if you have what it takes, it can be your paid ticket around the world. And I mean, I was happy to kind of like put roots down in Winnipeg and stay there for my whole career. But I've had colleagues that their goal is just to experience as much of the world as they can. So they'll go to, say, one company for a season or two and see what Winnipeg's like, and then start auditioning around again and find themselves, there's ballet companies all over the world. And so, yeah. And if you have the goods, there's, people out there saying, yes, we will fly you over here and provide you a means to pay for rent. So I was happy to tap into that a little bit.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. You're back now, and you've come back to the East. You're back in New Brunswick, and you're starting as an instructor, mentor, coach at a local studio. Do your former studios have large pictures of you up in their studio saying he came from here?
If they do, they hide them. When I come around, it's probably good for my ego. I don't think that does anyone good if it inflates anymore. Yeah, no. So yeah, I'm based in Moncton right now, teaching a few classes a week at a studio called Dance Creation. But fortunately, through, let's say, my past and I have various connections with a number of studios, and a number of them have said, let's chat because we'd love to have you, participate with us, and share with our students in whichever way you can. And like right now I'm working, actually this coming weekend, I'll be interacting with 3 different studios, 2 in sort of the St. John area and 1 in Fredericton. And it's nice because as a professional dancer, you're constantly, at least I was kind of constantly aware that, it was not a path that would, sustain me for the rest of my life. Either either the body shuts down or people say, no, we don't really want to see you on stage anymore. So, in the mind, I was always having to, have a backup plan, and, in case the knee went out or the back or something like that. So coming back to New Brunswick, well, that was always sort of on my wish list. What that would look like it's still sort of fluid and figuring that out. But I'm happy to find opportunities to draw from all the experiences I've had in the past 20 years and sort of recycle them and share them, as opposed to just being like, don't need it, moving on to world of business. And so I'm really happy to sort of have those experiences to pass it on to the next generation and say, hey, these are some things that I struggled with. Let's see if I can smooth that path out for you, so you can get through that a bit easier.
Well, speaking of, passing things on to the next generation, one of the things that you've, talked about is, encouraging more boys to get into dance and into ballet, because there is a lack of boys and men in the actual field. What do you think it's going to take to overcome that, I guess? And where do you see some changes maybe starting to happen?
Oh, that's a golden question. Yeah, it's unfortunate that not more boys and men have discovered dance. And I know when I was in middle school and early high school, I was one of, I think, 3 guys that I knew of in southern New Brunswick. And I mean, perhaps all of New Brunswick. I don't know I wasn't really familiar with the dance scene in other parts of the province, but that were, my own age, that were in ballet. And those other 2 were, were in Moncton. I was the only one in St. John. There's a couple of other, there's 2 other boys who were younger than me in my school, but didn't really have much of a peer group to look to. And since then, I think shows like So You Think You Can Dance and, like the TV show Glee, and I've seen over the past, 20, 30 years, a bit of a more exposure to the performing arts in general, but also in dance, making it sort of breaking down some of those barriers. And so I think while it's more accessible now than it was before, it's a slow moving process, and we're hoping, it's definitely lots of room to improve, or I guess to say it one way. And so I'm hoping to, by being here and say, whether it's acting as a role model or say, look, early ballet classes are tedious. It's a lot of focus on building up control in the body and strength, and it's a lot of hard work, and we don't always see what that then leads to, and how fun and how powerful and how athletic that actually is. So while I still have some oomph in my jump, I'm more than happy to, I'm hoping to be able to say to any young boys either considering it or who are in and saying, hey, stick with it, this actually gets really fun, and hopefully keep them interested.
We'll be right back with more of our conversation with Royal Winnipeg ballet dancer Liam Caines. Get ready to put on your dancing shoes, because the 2024 Nova Scotia Dance Week is here, and it's bigger and better than ever. For one incredible week, Nova Scotia will be moving to the rhythm of dance. Join us for a week-long celebration of dance in all of its forms. Even if you've never danced before, now's the perfect time to start. And once again, included in Dance Week is the Dare to Dance School program. It's all about bringing the joy of dance to schools across Nova Scotia. Our Dare to Dance School program is your chance to bring the magic of dance right to your classrooms. It's not just about moving your feet. It's about inspiring creativity, fostering teamwork, and boosting confidence. Teachers, parents, and students, don't miss this incredible opportunity to explore the world of dance. Mark your calendars for April 20th to the 29th and join us for the 2024 Nova Scotia Dance Week. For more information and to sign up for the Dare to Dance School program, visit our website at dancens.ca. Let's dance, Nova Scotia. Feel the rhythm, experience the joy, and celebrate the 2024 Nova Scotia Dance Week. Brought to you by Dance Nova Scotia, because dance is for everyone. Well, I think too, hearing the story of how you were able to, transition from an East Coast kid who's learning to dance to someone who's at the Winnipeg, Royal Ballet School, and then getting around the world to be able to kind of turn that into a career. Really, if the interest is there and the spark is there, you shouldn't deny yourself. And I think that, in one sense, it's the world itself says this is what a male dancer maybe looks like. And it may not be the best image that we put out to, our youth, because it always comes on the back heel of maybe what we determine as masculinity, or in that toxic masculinity that we're always kind of talking about, that there is a strength within dance that maybe we do not really talk about, and it's more about the genre, or I'm not sure exactly what conversations happen out there, but I do know from being a kid myself back in the day, when talking about dance, it wasn't something that was really talked about for boys, unless you were going into hockey, because then they would talk about dance as a form of learning balance on the ice. And then people could kind of understand it. But we end up kind of putting these labels on the genres or on the styles that really don't belong there.
Oh, absolutely. I know when I was five, I started ballet, and I also started karate classes. And I remember my parents have told me a number of times that Sensei McGinnis, I would approach them and just comment on just my sense of coordination compared to the other students, and and that was purely the dance training kind of kicking in of just that bodily awareness. But I think you touched on it, sort of just like our society is definitely evolving, it's changing, and there's a lot of good things happening. But I think we come from a place where men did not express their feelings. Like that was that you just didn't do that. And dance, and really a lot of art forms, deal with expression. You're in dance, you're using your body as a medium to convey thoughts and feelings, and that's very not manly. And we're slowly getting away from that. It's taking a while of sort of breaking that image, that message, and I think like that's a big part of, or a big hurdle that we're still getting over.
I think there's a vulnerability associated with it, maybe from the outside looking in, that people have yet to get to in terms of understanding and allowing themselves to be vulnerable. When you watch dance, and certainly I am not someone who can do some of the tricks and kicks and whatnot that you would see on So You Think You Can Dance, but I can appreciate it. But when I look at certain things, if you look at a hard-hitting hip-hop kind of routine versus maybe something that's emotionally driven from a ballet or a contemporary style or even jazz, all of a sudden there's a vulnerability that's in there from an emotional aspect that I think people struggle with, to wrestle with, in terms of understanding how to allow themselves to be vulnerable.
That's a struggle that even the pros work with. It's tough. I found it quite liberating, being on stage, even from like an early age. That was my freedom. I went to my K to 8 school was two classes per grade, so it was very small. And being the one boy who did dance definitely did not win me any brownie points with my classmates on the coolness level. But when I was 8, I joined a performing ensemble at Port City Dance Academy. And that's where I think I first sort of came out of my shell, because it gave me I discovered my love of performing, because we'd have 4 or 5 gigs a year, anywhere from performing in front of the produce stand at the Milledgeville Superstore to going down to I remember our first year we came down to Halifax because there was a gala show honoring Frank Augustine, a former principal dancer at the National Ballet, his retirement. and our group was welcome to perform for him. And so I started to get a taste of the stage, and all of a sudden, I really, when you're on the, when I was on the stage, where yes, there's always going to be stage fright, and you're aware that, there's people watching, but it also gave me a sense of freedom where, all right, like, this is like that self-conscious kid who, was constantly going like, oh, is this cool enough? What did, what do my classmates think? Also, I'm like, no, like, while I'm out here, this isn't me. I get to pretend to be something else. And the freedom that came with that I was able in some ways to kind of, until I, developed that self-confidence, which, came decades later, that was sort of almost like my kitchen that I could experiment with the recipes, if you will. And and be someone, be a cowboy, be a villain, whatever the role was. But as getting back to, like, you're talking about that vulnerability, when you get to that, like, sort of that more personal connection, I found it freeing, because it almost it gave me a platform to share parts of myself that I wanted to share with others and make that connection, and share my truths, whatever the message we were trying to say was. But it's also, it's a little unnerving, because you don't know how someone's going to respond, and that can be challenging.
I think that there's a lot of challenges that are in there, and a lot of hurdles to kind of overcome. A lot of it comes with how we position things, and how we have these conversations to open them up and show not only the joy of dancing and expression, but also the wellness that comes along with it. One of my mantras is, when in doubt, dance it out. Because even though I'm not a professionally trained dancer, I love to dance, because in those moments, I am getting, a release. I'm getting an exercise, getting exercise. I'm getting some exertion that's doing something from me from a wellness aspect, both physically and mentally. And I think that, and emotionally, to be honest. And I think that those are the conversations that we need to have, so that we show all the different aspects of it, that it's not just the image that you're seeing.
No. I mean, I'm an advocate that dance is for everyone, no matter your age. Quite often we picture, like, think of dance lessons as, infants to end of high school, but it's something to be enjoyed by all, and regardless of what the final intent is, be it trying to have that career path that you can pay your bills and sort of and financially support yourself, versus just going and, as I say, just having fun and enjoying yourself. I mean, similar, like, if I've noticed that, especially when I'm, when I'm in a good mood, I'm grooving in my kitchen or whatever, just around the house, even driving the car. It's a way of, like, physically embodying, how you're feeling, as opposed to just keeping it in the head. And there's times when, I remember going to the studio quite upset over, something else that's happening in my life, and finding that release, that way of sort of parking all that and saying, okay, in the next hour and a half, I get to do something that I love, and bring that, almost like therapeutic comfort, bring that back.
I love that. I think that's a great way to kind of look at that, and really kind of pull it together into focus. You're back. You're in New Brunswick. You're going to be teaching. You're going to be instructing. What else is on the front lines for you, in terms of what do you hope to be able to do or create now that you've kind of returned?
That's a good question. That's something I'm asking myself every day, trying to, find where, I guess, where I best fit in. Like I say, I've had a few, in addition to the studio that I'm teaching at here in Moncton, I'm actually currently working with a gentleman who's a figure skater. Like, so many disciplines, like there's a lot of parallels between, ballet and or dance and figure skating. And we're discovering that I have some things that I can be sharing with him, and, to improve his game there. And so that's been really fun. Chatting with a few studios in the new year that I'm hoping to choreograph numbers for their dancers, and, make connections that way. There's two studios that have asked me to be part of their production of Nutcracker in December. So that's forcing me to, keep stretching and try and maintain the splits and all those fun things that a few months ago I was like, don't need those anymore. Oh, and how quickly those things go away. But
Yeah, aging is fun like that.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Yeah, every day it's a new experience and not necessarily a flattering one. So it's really I'm definitely keeping my eyes open for any opportunities. Say to I guess continue using. I don't even want to say recycling, but continue using the set of skills and this passion that I've developed in the past over the last 2 decades, and seeing how I can be of a service and of value to these communities that are the reason that I am where I am now. If it wasn't for my experience with that performing ensemble, I wouldn't have ever discovered my love and my passion, and that would never have provided me a number of experiences that I wouldn't trade for a thing. So to be able to come back and say, okay, now I have this wealth, like let me reinvest it. Yeah, I'm excited to see what I can do.
I have an interesting question. I don't know if it's one that you can answer, or maybe it's one you can answer very, very quickly. If you were back in time and it hadn't been ballet that you were going towards, what's the next genre or style of dance you would have loved to have tackled professionally?
Ooh, knowing what I know now, because I say back then, I really only knew ballet, but knowing what I know now, I would love, I don't know about professionally, but I would love to do flamenco, like Spanish dancing, but especially flamenco. I took a few lessons when I was training in Winnipeg. We had to do flamenco classes, and at the time, I didn't appreciate, because I didn't have that image in my head of what it was. And since then, I've seen videos, and in fact, my wife, she's from Italy. Her uncle is a flamenco dancer, and seeing him like talk about just raw passion and power in a very sort of almost like a seducing sort of way. But there's this real, I found real attraction to it, and so I would love to explore that a bit more.
Well, maybe one day we will see you on the stage doing some sexy flamenco. Sexy flamenco.
I'm pretty sure no one wants to see that.
Liam, I'm so excited to have you back and have you on the podcast. I'm sure that the students that are going to come into contact with you are going to be so fortunate to have you as an instructor. And I want to wish you all the best of luck, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you for having me. This has been, it's nice to chat and share a few stories, and appreciate the well wishes. Thank you.
It's nice to see the success of someone from the East, but also I love the fact that you've returned and you're bringing back your experiences and your knowledge for the next generation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liam, and continued success. Dance Nova Scotia is extremely excited to showcase the music of Nova Scotia artists each episode. Dance and music share a long connected history. We encourage dancers and choreographers to explore the incredible music talent in Nova Scotia when considering music to pair with their artistic expression. This episode, we are excited to showcase the music of multidisciplinary artist, songwriter, and poet Leanne Hoffman. An alumnus of Berklee College of Music, Leanne is an accomplished artist who released her first solo, full-length album in May 2019, which earned her 4 Music Nova Scotia Award nominations, as well as an East Coast Music Award nomination. And just recently, in June 2023, Leanne released her latest work, her second full-length album titled The Text Collector, featuring singles Pity Party, Portuguese Tarts, and the latest release, Bilby Street, You Still Love Me. Alongside the album, Leanne also released a companion anthology of the same name, featuring poetry written each day over the course of 1 year. Dance Nova Scotia is proud to showcase the incredible art of Leanne Hoffman.
Walking through the streets at midnight, while we talk about our lives, I scream, I'm too hot for this. You tell me that I'm right. Dead mouse in the living room, our cat never had a clue. went again. One time I got too high, and the one time we had that fight, I feel so cool standing next to you. You're always showing me exactly what a friend should be. I feel so cool standing next to you. Friday morning at a grocery spot, passed out in the parking lot. Promised I'd be fine, you were always right. Said goodbye in the living room, didn't think that I'd make it through. When I come back to stay, it's like I never went away. One time I got too high, and the one time we had that fight, I feel so cool standing next to you. You're always showing me exactly what a friend should be. I feel so cool standing next to you. One time I got too high, and the one time we had that fight, I feel so cool. 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 Standing next to you. Standing next to you. You're always showing me exactly what a friend should be. I feel so cool standing next to you. Standing next to you. Standing next to you. Standing next to you.
Dance Nova Scotia is pleased to highlight just some of the many upcoming dance events happening across the province. On November 3rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., the Royal Winnipeg Ballet will be holding auditions at Halifax Dance on 1505 Barrington Street, downtown Halifax, for the September 2024 intake of full-time professional division programs, the Ballet Academic Program, and the Anna McCowan Johnson Aspirant Program. On November 25th and 26th at 12:30 p.m., make your way to the Halifax Citadel as the historic fort takes on a festive air with Victorian music and games for a Victorian Christmas. And be sure to catch featured performances by the Amethyst Scottish Dancers. This is a free event, and attendees are encouraged to bring non-perishable food items as donations for local food banks. And on November 26th, at Halifax Dance in downtown Halifax, the Ottawa School of Dance Contemporary Dance Diploma Program will be hosting a masterclass and auditions for intermediate and advanced dance students. Interested dancers should register by November 23rd to Sylvie Desrosiers at theschoolofdance.ca. Have an event you'd like us to announce? Be sure to connect with us online at www.dancens.ca and add your event to our community calendar. Thank you for listening to United in Dance, the Dance Nova Scotia podcast. To learn more about the podcast, please connect with us by email at office@dancens.ca or check us out online at www.dancens.ca.